Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Sports Spectrum. I am Jason Romano and really excited today to welcome a Super Bowl champion, not just as a player, but now as a coach as well. He is Larry Foote, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers linebackers coach, and Larry joins us here on the show today. What's up, Larry? How are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm not as good as you. Let's put it that way. I'm not coming off of a Super Bowl championship, but I'm doing well, buddy. Thanks for joining us here on the show today. Let's start there. I mean, it's got to be a pretty good feeling now. We're a couple months removed from having won that Super Bowl, and I just wonder for you, because you've had this experience as a player, but never as a coach. What was this like, kind of celebrating as a coach, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers linebackers coach?
Well, first of all, once a month removed from being a Super Bowl champ, you're back with the rest of the 32. Nobody remembers who won it last year. We're in the thick of free agency is coming to an end, but so I'm watching on TV, everybody making their predictions already next year. So we're forgotten about. So hopefully my players right now, they're taking that same approach as they, get back in shape and getting their bodies right for the next season.
Yeah, you
But
got to turn the page quickly, right?
yes, I'm telling you, that's the society.
Compare and contrast being a coach and being a player and winning a Super Bowl.
As a coach, I've been telling people you're more of a proud papa. You're just so excited and happy for your guys, and especially coming from my point of view, somebody who experienced that mountaintop experience. And, as a kid, you always dream about winning the Super Bowl, playing in the Super Bowl. And when you got those guys, when you were, just in the corner and helping those guys achieve those dreams, you're just that proud papa feeling. And as a player, you just, you're in awe. And especially for the first time you go there, you're still pinching yourself and you can't believe it. And, I've been there 4 times, won 3, thank God. And I still think it was luck. I still think it's luck because I think it's so hard. And Tom Brady might be the only person on the planet that can say, oh, I got this. But from my perspective, and he'll even tell you, like, it's so hard because, he was there. I think he lost a couple of them there.
Yeah.
He lost 3 of them and, a lot of playoff defeats. So it's just a long, grueling season. And I still think it's luck. The ball got to bounce your way. And, I've been blessed to experience.
My grandfather always said, you make your own luck though, right? So you have to be prepared when the situation does bounce your way to take advantage of it. And you guys did just that. I'm really curious from your perspective on when you look back at a season like last year, just not just winning a Super Bowl, but everything that had to go right with COVID, the fact that you didn't miss any games. The NFL did an incredible job to get you guys out there every week to play. Every player was following and doing the best they could. It sounds like following all the protocols and trying to stay quarantined and all that stuff. Everything had to go right. When you look back at the last year, what kind of emotions come to mind on the journey part of it? Not just winning it and what's it like to win it, but the journey that you guys had to walk through over the last 12 months.
It was definitely different. I remember the first game we played New Orleans. It was just an empty stadium, and it literally feels like a hot summer day, like Saturday, where you out there just trying to make it through training camp, and you're bored, no fans, and it's just an eerie feeling. It was so different, and you just the first couple games of the season, like, man, it feel like practices. It feel like practices. So it was a different experience. You're trying to focus in on your opponent, but you're also watching what's going on in the world. You're keeping up with the COVID numbers, and you're getting bad calls, people back home, your family. So you had to deal with a lot of that and try to stay focused on your opponent the next week. The great thing about having Tom Brady come in it rose all the expectations of Super Bowl. So players were locked in, and Coach BA did a great job of saying, hey, every year the two best teams are going to be standing. This might not be the year. This might be a year that the team that's the most disciplined, and that's probably always the course anyway, but far as off the field, how we going to take care of one another. And, quarterbacks, you can wipe out the whole room. He had plan Bs on the side, plan C, plan D. Far as if the whole quarterback room get knocked out, we got to have somebody available or whatnot. And one thing I always found interesting when I was learning about antibodies that played in a big favor on our side is a lot of our guys had it in the summer. A lot of our guys caught it. I'm not going to say no names in particular, but in my room especially, I was kind of nervous, like, man, I don't know. That might be the guy that give it to me and I bring it home to my family. So I was thankful that some of them guys had it. Yeah. So, when I started learning about the antibody, they can't catch it until another 90 days or whatnot. So I think that played in favor as far as we never had a big outbreak where the NFL had to adjust our scheduling, or whatnot. So that was definitely different because every morning, we worrying about this new blitz. Oh, did anybody catch it? Anybody we missing? Somebody got contact. So you had to be flexible mentally from that standpoint.
Larry Foote's joining us here on Sports Spectrum. Clyde Christensen was, speaking of another one of your coaches, was the one who actually introduced us. He's the one that actually told me. I talked to him the week before the Super Bowl. He was kind of describing what that experience was like for him going to Green Bay and having you guys win in Lambeau. And really, Clyde is such a great guy. I've known him for multiple years now, but he's always about Christ first. Like his mindset is Jesus first. And I just thought that was so awesome to hear. And then I asked him about some of the guys on the team, and he's like, you need to talk to Larry. Larry's got a great story. He's a great guy. But I'm really fascinated to hear from your perspective, the influence Clyde had on you to start here, not just as a mentor and as a coach, but really as someone who could spiritually sharpen you.
Well, I'm coming out there to finish my 6th year of coaching. And just far as my profession, because me, I'm only 40, always battled, man, I got this time-consuming job. I know my calling, first and foremost, is to, be the light. God entrusted me with this gospel. We're all ambassadors if you're called to be a Christian. Yep. And we got to do our job. We got to spread God's word. And we got to help disciple. So I got access to players, but sometimes, these grown men and, you're trying to coach them football and lead them. But that's my job. I try to do that to my best abilities. But Clyde, made it, hey, we're in this building all these hours. We're going to hold each other accountable. And we can still grow in the midst of this schedule and trying to execute and win on Sundays. And he was the first guy, I came across, man, he is serious about this. We ain't missing Bible study. He's knocking on people's doors. He's sitting in Texas. He had to take on a little more of a leadership role because we don't have no chaplain. So he stepped up and took that on. And just the 2 years, and I'm not just the only coach, the impact he has had. And that just, that trickles down to my family. That trickles down to everything. And that's how powerful he is. And he just, like you said, he puts Christ first. And since I've been coaching, that's just the blessing of coming to Tampa Bay and running across him. Because now, if he retires and I go on for the next 20 years of coaching, God willing, I'm going to be like Clyde. Right. I'm going to be like Clyde in the building. And, if it's just 2 guys showing up, and lucky for us, we we probably have 10 to 15 guys. And they ain't just coaches. He goes to the scouting department, to the grounds crew. There's people on our Bible study. I'm I'm a little down on him today because we didn't go this morning. We missed this Friday, but don't tell him I told you that.
I won't tell him that.
So I got on him last night about it. Like, why are we missing? We couldn't get a later tea time. I was joking with him. But he definitely, he laid the blueprint. Like, hey, you can coach in this league, but you're gonna grow during these NFL hours in the building, and you're gonna lead, and you're gonna help, and you're just gonna encourage one another.
And he's a heck of a coach too, right?
Oh, great coach. I mean, if you give me Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, those guys, I'll be a great coach too. Andrew Luck. No, that's what.
I'm gonna make sure I send him that clip right there. I love it. No, that's awesome. Clyde is one of the best dudes you'll ever meet, and I'm just grateful to even know him myself, and glad that you spoke that way. I'm glad that you guys can joke too. I think that's what builds relationships is being able to bust some chops a little bit and mess with some guys.
Oh, he can do that. He can do that with the best of them. I tell you that. He can do that with the best of them.
That's awesome. Larry Foote's joining us here on Sports Spectrum, the Tampa Bay Linebackers coach, Super Bowl champion, 3-time Super Bowl champion now, 2 as a player, 1 as a coach. But going back and learning a little bit about your journey, man, you would have probably not thought when you were growing up as a kid that this was going to be where God took you, because there were some hard things that you were walking through and the environments that you grew up in as a kid. Can you share a little bit about that? Just growing up in that rough area in Detroit and some of the things that you had to you and your family had to pull yourself out of to have this opportunity to even get to where you are today.
Well, just growing up, the typical inner city stuff, the temptations that was there. I grew up in a single parent household, but the discipline was definitely there. My mother was hard nosed, but problem is, she was a waitress and bartender. So 4:30, till 2 a.m, she wasn't home. And so I had access, and getting in trouble was available if I wanted to do that. And early on, I was caught up in the gangs, the drugs. And I thank God for sports, because that was my avenue. God blessed me with that. He gave me that passion. And to this day, my little league coach, he's my uncle. The high school, this is how God worked it out. Well, he just had his hand over my life. I went to a high school at the very last minute that I had no idea that I would go to, and it was on the other side of town. I got in trouble after I graduated middle school in 8th grade. I was trying to figure out which high school, and I got in trouble one weekend, went to Canada, kind of ran away, hanging with the wrong crew. So my mother finally sent me to my father's house, who lived on the other side of town. And he just enrolled me into a school. And right there, I met my godfather. He was a coach. He led me to the Lord. One of my best friends in the school to this day, he also helped disciple me. And it took off from there. And slowly, I started, changing. When I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior, I was a junior in high school. And from that moment, everything started opening up. And when I say that, I didn't really have dreams or aspirations. I was real small. People in my neighborhood wasn't going to college. I did okay in school. I had good grades at an inner city high school, to say. And so I didn't really have dreams and aspirations of going to college or playing in the pros. I might have said it just like every little kid said, but you hear some of these stories. I knew it when I was a little boy. No, I can't say that. I probably said it, but I wasn't sitting at home truly vision that I was going to accomplish that. But when I got saved, it started changing. Like, I started taking stuff more serious, and flat out, colleges started sending letters. And, I'm going from 170 and eating the whole house and couldn't gain a pound. All of a sudden, I got to 180, then 190. So to speed things up, I took God business serious, and he took care of me. And I can't go back. He showed me. You know, I always teach my kids. When I look back now, you know, people I grew up with, they still in the same place or got worse. Mm-hmm. And what was the difference? It was the difference that, you know, I took God's business serious. I took God serious. I honored him. I put him first in my life, and he will open up doors. He will open up doors. We can look at the success stories, but the most important thing is just peace in mind, especially now. Like, people, you can flat out, we can't afford, I tell people, we can't afford to live without God, without Christ being the center. We can't afford, because we open to anything. And, you know, you're just 2 days away from being underneath a bridge, not knowing who you are. So yeah. I'm really thankful that just God has kept me, and the peace and joy that he had poured out on my life. And in the midst of that, I got to experience some stuff that, you know, that I couldn't even dream of. I couldn't even dream of.
I'm wondering, when you were younger, and that's an amazing story, and I love how God's brought you to where you are. What were some of the things, you don't have to go into too much detail if you don't want to, but I think paint a picture a little bit of some of the things that you got to witness when you were younger that just because I read a little bit about your story, and I was like, wow, you saw some things and went through some things as a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old that no kid should go through. Unfortunately, it was happening a lot though where you were.
Right. Well, when you grow up in those type of environments, you think it's normal. You think it's real normal. Like, my 5 kids, they got no clue on some of this stuff. You know, they got to, you know, get some documentaries or look on TV. But I mean, just far as, you know, seeing dead bodies on the streets, well, I specifically, and you thought this was normal, my neighborhood I lived at was a big drug infested neighborhood. When I say that, it was crack houses everywhere, everywhere. So all your buddies who you grew up with, they probably was, some of them lived there. Some people lived in crack houses, some of them just worked in there. But it was so normal. And where my house was, I was at one point on both sides with crack houses. So you can just imagine what you could be seeing. Like, yeah. I remember, like, my first kind of, like, not job, but some of the drug dealers is like, hey, little Larry, if you see the raid van, that's when, you know, the police will, you know, every now and then will raid those houses. He said, hey man, look out for us. If you see them when you have, run back over here if you see the van around the corner. So, you know, they give me $10, $20 here and there to do that for them. So, but one big eye opener when I started getting involved in the gangs, my best friend when I was 12 got murdered. And that told me right there, this ain't Boys in the Hood. This ain't Minister. This not a movie. This is real. This is the real deal. So that kind of God opened up my eyes to say, hey, you better make some choices. Quick, fast, in a hurry. And that's why he just said, right when I was starting to go to high school, and the other high schools that was on top of my list, none of them guys who I went there with graduated. None of them probably made it past the 10th grade. So he removed me out of that environment. And on top of that, you know, he introduced me to Christ. So that was the starting point, but it was normal, you know, not till I went to college. When I went to Ann Arbor, 45 minutes down the road, and I'm like, wow, this is a different lifestyle. This is, you know, I still joke with people all the time, like, you know, some of these homes I have lived in past years, you know, I don't really sleep as good. And I'm like, I'm used to living with bars on the windows and hearing the helicopter, and I just sleep better.
Yeah. Wow. It's crazy. So it must have been quite the culture shock when you get to Michigan.
Yeah.
How was those years for you when you think back? Because obviously you had a lot of success as a player. It transfers into you being drafted by Pittsburgh and you're a 4th round pick, and you go on to have a really great NFL career. But those formative years in college where you start to find yourself as a man at 19, 20 years old and spiritually growing as well. And you're around some pretty, amazing players on your team as well. And some people that can really influence you. What were those years like at Michigan?
Michigan was a great experience. College was awesome. As a believer, I kind of slipped back into, 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And college got me. I remember one time the head coach, Lloyd Carr, called me in and said, look, a lot of young men come in here as Christians and sometimes they struggle. And when she was telling me, I was like, man, you got no idea. And it was part of my testimony, and I can share this. I'm quite sure a lot of people can relate to it. I got in like a 10-year window where I deceived myself by saying, well, I'm not as bad as such and such. I'm not as bad as such and such. I do still read my Bible. I still get up and pray. Yeah, I'm in the club on Saturday nights and Friday nights and, X, Y, and Z. So I got in a big time zone and thought I was comfortable doing that. And that was and as believers, you ain't never gonna be, the God is never gonna let you just be at peace while you in that back and forth mode. He's never gonna do that. And he would chastise me, the spirit would come in, and punch me in the gut. Then I'll be clean, I'll straighten up for a couple of weeks, then I'll fall right back into it. So maturity-wise in Christ, I was not ready for college. And I failed big time. Far as that goes, I was just back and forth. And it made it, I didn't do my job far as leading and being a light. Yeah, I shared and people knew, every time there was a chaplain or the guy on what's it called, on campus, the
Character
association, anyway, we had a guy and everybody was running high from him, and me and him was buddies. We still buddies. A guy named Bruce to this day. So people knew I was a believer, but I didn't have no power in me because I wasn't living right. So I struggled with that in college. I had a blast. I met a lot of good guys still to this day. We're friends. And but it was great, but I was not ready for it mature. I was not mature enough. And I always look at that, and that's how I'm trying to raise my kid. My daughter going to high school next year, and I just keep telling her all about temptation. Hey, what you gonna do? You got to represent Christ. You got to, so.
Yeah.
But
it's not easy.
Definitely a great experience.
It's not easy. And I know it's not like it gets any easier, right? I mean, there's the blessing of being drafted and being selected into the NFL, and you go to Pittsburgh, but it's not like the temptations don't continue. I mean, you become an NFL player and you got money and you got fame and you got that Steeler logo on the side of your helmet and everybody's watching and thinking you're all great. I have to imagine there was some struggles in the NFL too with temptation. What was it that helped you as you grew into yourself as a professional to keep you grounded? Like, were there people and spiritual leaders and chaplains and other people in the NFL that helped you stay grounded? Because this, I mean, I've talked to a lot of NFL guys and I know a lot of them. It is a hard life to stay as a follower of Christ if you don't have the right support system around you.
The good part was just having the Holy Spirit live inside me. I never drifted too far. I always knew, you're danger, let's go back. But, just like college, I was back and forth, but I never went too far, thank God.
Yeah.
Because I could have lost my way. Good thing was by having that inside me, having the Spirit inside me, I didn't blow all my money. I didn't give it away, the stories and not just stories, people I know personally, people blow their money and it's really a lifestyle. And I share with these young athletes all the time, especially in my room, like, understand, I don't care what level of spirituality you at, there's a force that wants you to blow all your money. and you see it all the time. NFL does a great job. They tells us about, the pitfalls, and you better avoid this and save, save, save. They're always throwing us in, not throwing it, but they're always trying to teach us the dangers of, you will blow your money. And there's a force, like you grab a guy like 75, I think probably more than that, 80% of the players come from poverty-stricken neighborhoods. So understand that a guy coming, from my side of the town, and the embarrassment and the humiliation, you come to all this money and you end up blowing it. Then you got to go right back where you came from. So there's an evil force every time. And I watch the draft every year, and I always shake my head when them guys come up there and they got all tons of jewelry on.
Yeah.
And I go, wow. And I do my job, and you ask my players, and they get mad at me. They like, my kids, because as soon as I see somebody with new jewelry or big car, I get on right there. And I know it's maturity levels, and, I don't judge them because, I did some stupid stuff also. But they got to know coming in, there's a force that's trying to make you broke. And it's just the bottom line. And you see it all in all the leagues. All the leagues that you see these players end up broke. And that's a shame. But if we don't identify our enemy, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
And it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that we got to get under control.
Yeah. Larry Foote's been our guest here on Sports Spectrum as we wind down. Appreciate the time. This has been a fantastic conversation. So where God has brought you today, where he's taken you to in 2021, and I'm not just talking about Super Bowls and success on the field. I'm talking about as a man of God, as a husband, as a dad. What's the great lesson that he's showing you right now? What's he teaching you in the season of life that you're in today at 40 years old, Larry Foote?
Oh, man, just in 2021, surviving 2020 is we got to be the light. We got to be the light. We are called. He gave us this ministry for a reason. This is our job. This is the only job that's going to last forever, and it means something. And the job well done, or the reward that we get from doing our job, is going to last forever. Unlike the Super Bowl trophies, unlike the gold jackets, the big rings and the big contracts, that stuff is going to come and go and fade. So we got to keep our priorities and together. We got to keep our mission at the top, as far as we got to disciple. Last thing Christ told them, go out throughout the world and preach this gospel and baptize. And what an awesome time right now. And I know the devil is trying to beat us down with fear, but right now, no time in history probably when the world has an ear to truly hear. Right. We got their attention. We got their attention, and we got to make sure we, faith over fear. And God is waiting on us.
He is. Larry, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us, my friend. We'll have you back on and talk some more football, talk some more Jesus, but just appreciate you. Thanks for all you've done for the kingdom, and just keep it going, my friend. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, man, thanks for having me anytime.